Ignition sequence start. 6, 5.
It's one small step for man.
2, 1.
Everything is go here.
Welcome to Stay Relevant, my wandering conversations with interesting people. I'm Mike Savola.
Hey, this is Houston. We're copying.
The Eagle has landed.
My guest today is producer, director, songwriter, and musician Lisa Horan of Pop Mark Media, who wrote the current theme song for this podcast.
Hi.
Hey, Lisa, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, we've known each other for quite a long time, I guess since I was president of ITVA DC, which is now TIVA, TIVA DC. I've done a lot of things since then. You've done a lot of things.
True.
You know, how's it gone?
It's gone great. I mean, I've been really fortunate. I've been able to stay within the creative world and do everything from, lots of writing projects to producing and, doing things in the digital space. So I've kind of worked in every realm possible and gained a lot of experience in all of those worlds.
And you've kind of gone from, I guess when I knew you were, in the beginning, it was freelance, a lot of freelance stuff. And now you kind of have your own entity. You went into sound and songwriting and stuff. Tell me about that a little bit. Tell me how you got into and what pushed you into singing, songwriting. Was it something you always wanted to do? And how you worked that into your whole professional career?
Yeah. Well, singing, music, performing arts always has been a big part of my life since I was a kid. I kind of grew up as a singer and a dancer. And, once I went to college, I majored in broadcast journalism, got my degree in broadcast journalism, but music was always sort of there and dance was always sort of there. So it never really left, but I didn't have an opportunity to pursue it professionally until many years later. I guess in the early 2000s, I was singing at my church, my local church, and I was a worship leader, and I kind of started writing music, and I hooked up with a couple of different producers here and there to record some of my music. And then one day I saw an ad for a singer for a demo for this group, and I got that, and I was able to sing that song, and I sort of connected with one of the guys who happened to be a studio owner, and I started recording there, and so kind of continued to develop, and I started writing a lot more and recording a lot more, and that actually turned into an opportunity. I became the creative director of that studio, which is an audio post-production studio and a recording studio, and that kind of lent itself to a lot of additional opportunities in the music world, both in singing and writing music, and also working with artists to provide some of the services that I offered, as a marketing professional, as a PR professional, as a writer. So it's kind of it's been sort of I've been able to do a lot of things to get to in the music world. And in addition to all of that, kind of how my company started, Pop Mark Media, was once I started working with the studio, I realized that, one of the services that I could offer to artists was, like I said, was marketing and promoting their music and helping them to develop websites and branding services and things like that. And so that's kind of how my company originally started, was to work with artists. As time went on, I was able to use my music background to actually create music for some other companies. So that when I was working in that capacity, I was able to do like, for example, there was a company that came to me, an organization that came to me, and they wanted me to develop their website. And they also said, hey, do you know of anybody who can actually create this theme song? Because we need that to go along with this website. We needed to promote our organization. It was an anti-bullying organization that was just forming. So my music background enabled me to do that. And so I started to work with companies and organizations and government agencies to provide music composition services in addition to the writing and the marketing services that I was providing. So, that's kind of how Popmark Media, my company, started, and some of the work that I've been able to do.
You also went out to, or you explored working with Nashville, and you were at one point, I know you were trying to get into writing songs for country songs, I guess, for artists. How did that go, and how did you get into that? And how you laugh?
Yeah, well, Nashville is a real interesting town, and that part of the music world is completely different from what I really do now. I didn't really ever have the idea of pursuing Nashville as an artist because I'm way too old for that, and I have a family, and I don't have the desire to go and get in a van with a bunch of stinky guys and travel around doing performances. But my experience with Nashville was I had songs that I was trying to promote, and I had some contacts that I was working with. And what I really learned from that experience is, unless you're in Nashville, physically in Nashville, it's an extremely hard place to break into to become a songwriter for other artists. You kind of have to be there. You actually have to be performing out. And the crazy thing is there's so much talent there, as artist-wise and songwriter-wise. You have to be in that area and just constantly pounding it, which I obviously am not going to do. But what kind of came from that experience was the realization that one of the ways to stay in the world of music outside of doing, custom music for video productions or whatever, was to market music for placement in films, in TV shows, in advertising campaigns and things of that nature. And that's kind of what I've pursued and what I've had some success with. It was really strange. And I'm not even making this up. I know it sounds crazy, but literally right before I walked out the door this morning to come here, I received an email from one of the placement companies that I work with saying that one of my songs is under consideration for a TV show.
Nice.
So, it's just, it's a world that requires a lot of attention and a lot of work. I don't give it as much attention as I would like to, because I actually have to make a living and eat and feed my children. But there are opportunities to create music and to have that music placed in TV and film. And
did you kind of figure that out by yourself, or how did you? It's like you don't just write something and throw it out there on the internet. I mean, how did you figure it out?
Well, a lot of research and a lot of experience from other folks that I've dealt with, other artists, and I see what's involved. I mean, in order to really make it as an artist now, you have to have so much time devoted to it. You have to have an incredible social media presence. You have to constantly be putting videos out there. You have to constantly either have new material or be, recording covers and putting those out there. And then you just have to be willing to just be out there performing all of the time.
It sounds like it's that way for everything these days.
Yeah.
And you bring up a good point. Social media is a big part of that, but you have to have something fresh. You have to be constantly working that. I'm thinking if you got a blog, you got to put stuff out all the time. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a video artist or a singer or a songwriter, you need to put new material out to people in order for people to keep coming back and seeing you.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like also, I think social media, for all the good that it does us, it takes a lot of our time.
Totally.
To really concentrate, you either hire somebody else, which takes all your money, or
Yes.
you do it yourself.
Absolutely. And the thing is, social media can be an extremely effective tool if you use it wisely, but you're absolutely right. It takes a lot of time. It can be a full-time job if you do it well. And unfortunately, it can also be a detriment because a lot of people use it irresponsibly when you're talking about in a professional way. It's completely different if you're using it to stay in touch with your family and friends and post goofy stuff. But if you're trying to use it to boost your career, the best way and really the most effective way is to utilize it in a sense where you're putting out content that's relevant, content that's useful. And that takes time. It takes time to figure out, how to do that, what content you're going to be putting out, and then you have to do it consistently.
And you have to cut through the noise somehow, because everybody has something out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's the hard part I find. I mean, getting above the noise. It's kind of like a leveling platform, or it levels the playing field for everybody. It gives everybody the entry point that they need. Same thing with technology. Anybody can go out, can get cheap audio equipment and record themselves. Same thing with video. You can get a camera today. For $5,000, you can buy a camera that's better than anything we had 10 years ago.
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy. And cheap editing software, you can do a little movie, a little short, something, put it out there. But unless you have a plan behind it, I'm thinking nobody sees it, nobody hears it. You got to get above the fray.
Exactly.
So what is your plan of doing that? I mean, do you have a plan? You just kind of meandered through that?
As far as
cutting through all the noise.
Well, for myself, when it comes to
generally, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. I think to me, it's not just about. You can't just do that based on content alone when it comes to social media. You kind of have to identify really what makes you unique, what makes you different. For myself, kind of the way that I've stood out and been able to, stay busy and have, get jobs is because I am a little bit different in terms of what my company offers, because I offer, not only am I, a writer-producer, which there are, as you well know, so many of us out there. What makes me different is the fact that in addition to being a writer-producer, I also have a background in marketing. I also have a background in PR. I also have a background in web development. So I can offer those services in addition to producing a video, and then the music also.
And even if you're not doing those specific jobs, I'm thinking that marketing plays into what you're doing, and that can color how you advise somebody and what you bring to the table on that.
Absolutely.
How do you stay relevant? Let's talk about that a little bit. What is relevance, and how do you stay relevant in our industry with, everything changing all the time? I mean, with social media, it's hard enough to figure out, are you going to tweet? Are you going to, have a Facebook page? Are you going to be on Instagram? What are the avenues? So how does that play into your whole plan, and how do you stay relevant?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of, going off of what I just said, the biggest thing to me in staying relevant is, coming to grips with the fact that the industry is constantly changing. So what made you or I relevant 10 years ago certainly doesn't apply today, because our industry is constantly changing. Not only is there new technology, but like you said, people feel as though they can use it, and a lot of times they can't use it well. I mean, and not everybody is, just because you can go out and purchase a camera doesn't make you a great videographer. Just because, you can develop a website with some web tools doesn't make you an expert in that. So, basically figuring out a way to present yourself as an expert so that potential clients recognize your value. And that's kind of the other thing right now that is such a difficult thing to overcome in our industry is what I see, what I feel, what I've experienced is sort of the devaluing of what we offer. And a lot of that does have to do with technology that's available. And it also has to do with, like with what I do as a writer, in terms of not just writing scripts for videos, but also articles and blogs and things of that nature. There are content mills out there where you are getting, it's not good information that's being put out there. It's all about keywords, it's all about information that has, even though Google really frowns upon keyword stuffing, there are content mills out there that that's all they're focused on, really. And so a writer trying to compete in this market now, you have to try to, find the opportunities that don't stick you into that category, because you can't make a living. You literally cannot make a living doing that. I mean, if you're an adult with children, you can't. Maybe as a a college graduate, recent college graduate.
Which is where, you get these advertisements for people looking for, some young blood to come in and do it.
Absolutely.
Somebody can do it all. Well,
Yeah.
and it's hard because, people think, they touch television every day. It's part of their life. It's always been. Video is part of their lives, and they feel like, there's nothing to it. I can do that.
That's right.
But it's not about that. It's about, I maintain, it's about storytelling.
Absolutely.
That's at the heart of everything we do in our lives. No matter what you're doing. If you're, putting together a TV show, if you're putting together a song, if you're talking to somebody, you're trying to get a job, you're telling a story about yourself.
That's right.
And if you're a good storyteller, hopefully you'll get the job. And
Very true.
that's I think what sets the good people apart from the mediocre people. You have a story, you tell it well. That's what I like to say.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
And let's talk about how it's changed in the past few years. How our industry's changed. How has that made you change the way you look at stuff? I know we talked about the low cost and the ease of the getting the material and the.
Well, again, I say, one of the most important things that I've had to do is I've had to figure out, A, what makes me unique? What is going to set me apart? B, how can I, offer a diversified set of services? I think that's really, really important, that you're not, focused on one thing. If you are good at several things that are related, obviously I'm not talking about opening up a pizza place if you're, a writer, but diversifying your services so that you can offer additional sets of services along with your core, the core services.
But isn't that somewhat doing what we're saying that our industry has kind of gone towards anyway? I guess you have to draw the line somewhere because I'm a writer, producer, director, shooter, editor. And I can also do on-camera stuff. And you know what?
Yeah.
I can also do some voiceover stuff. So if you need any of that, I can do it. But
well, there is a danger to becoming a, jack of all trades and master of none. So you obviously have to figure out where's your experience? What are you really good at? And if you aren't, like for me, as a boutique creative services company, I offer video production services, but I'm not out there shooting. And I'm not out there editing. I have a team of professionals that I work with that are great at what they do, that I trust, and that work with me to provide those services. But you're absolutely right. There is a danger in that because it's like, hey, I can do this, and hey, I can do that, and I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about being able to stay within, the area that that you can offer services within. Well, being able to do it really, really well. And like I said before too, is today it's just completely different than it was 10 or 15 years ago. So the risk-taking part of this profession, it's there, it's present, it's necessary, and I find that I have to do that much more than I did 10 years ago when I was working with you for ITVA at the time. I'm having to do that a lot more now in the things that I'm doing.
In what respect, risk-taking?
Well, for example, there have been there have been some examples of jobs where, I was hired to do a specific task, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head right this moment, but let me just throw this one out there. Web development, okay. I'm a writer, and I have a design eye, and I work with people to put websites together. But then what happens is all of these other things can creep into the scenario. Oh, well, we need search engine optimization, and we need I can't think of anything right now, but other items that go along with something that I was originally hired to do.
We want a newsletter, so you can click and have a newsletter.
There are so many things that go along with
be
websites.
Able to click and have content come out.
Exactly. And so I've had to really be able to change with and adapt to the different requests that are being thrown at me, even if I don't necessarily know everything about providing that service. I'm researching, I'm talking to people, I'm figuring out how to do it, and I'm saying, yes, I can do that. And so that's kind of, it's just become part of what I've had to do, is sort of get outside my comfort zone, learn new things, and take a little bit of risk when it comes to providing services and making sure that I'm doing it really, really well. But that's just kind of what I've had to do to stay in the game.
How about networking? With the social media these days, it's all electronic. Nothing's face-to-face, or a lot of things aren't face-to-face. Yeah. How important is the face-to-face stuff? I mean, we have things like WIF, Women in Film. We have, the TIVA. We have Producers Guild now. It's coming into town. How important are those? Getting face-to-face, doing the social interaction face-to-face. Is that still something you need to do?
I personally think it is, because I don't think that's ever going to be irrelevant. I mean, maybe it will in 20 years from now or 10 years from now. I hope it's not, because I think that the personal connection, just sort of like storytelling, it's like it's still all about people, right? It's still all about, to some degree, it's still all about making a personal connection to make things happen. So, you can network through LinkedIn. You can find out what your colleagues are doing. You can identify new opportunities. You can stay up to speed on trends and that kind of thing. But when it comes to actually, having a connection with somebody, it's completely different doing something online versus meeting somebody. So I still think that even though it's more inconvenient, we're becoming a little bit lazier when it comes to traveling. That's downtown. I don't feel like going to that. I still feel as though that's the way that you make the important connections that can potentially lead to opportunities. I mean, I've been in this industry for 20 plus years, and I have received, like last week, I received 3 phone calls from 3 different people that I've worked with in the past, that I've worked with on a face-to-face basis in the past, who had opportunities for me. And that's, and I will be able to focus on those, and those will be the jobs that I do for the next couple of months. And those were all based on interactions that I had with people. Not to say that there's not value in connecting, on LinkedIn and other social media platforms, because there obviously is, and it's a necessity. But I don't think that not going to events, not making yourself visible, not having that face-to-face connection with people is irrelevant at all. I still think it's extremely important.
So what's going on in the future of our business, do you think? Where are we going from here?
I don't know. I guess holograms are the next thing. I mean, really, I don't know. I don't know what is going to take place in the world of technology. It just seems like every week something new is coming about. We're beyond HD. What is the new thing now?
Well, there's 4K, but there's also not 3D. The virtual reality, actually.
Yeah.
Which has been always kind of there and sort of hovering, but now it seems like it's really starting to take off.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, we're going to have all these newfangled technologies available, and it's probably never going to change. I can't even imagine any more, things that come about, but I know that they will. But I think the challenge for us as professionals in this industry is going to be continuing to prove our value, prove our worth, because those types of prosumer technologies are so readily available to people, and they think that they can produce a video or create a website or record audio for a film or for a video or whatever, that we're going to have to consistently use examples and provide information and put content out there to remind people that you can do it, but it's not going to be as good as if you hire a professional. So I think that's going to be our challenge as we move forward, because that technology is going to continue to be available to consumers, and people kind of feel like they can use it well.
Good. My guest today has been producer, director, songwriter, and musician Lisa Horan of Popmark Media. They wrote the current theme song for this podcast. Thanks for joining me, Lisa.
Thanks, Mike.
The podcast is Stay Relevant, wandering conversations with interesting people. Original music by Popmark Media on the web at popmarkmedia.com. See and hear more on my website at mikesabola.com. Until next time, try and stay relevant.